Well, what is going on, everybody? Welcome everybody into the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Show on the Overreaction Sports Network, powered by Believe. My name is Joe Miller. You can find me on Twitter at Joe Miller. Man, I'm having a hard time. At Joe Miller Wired, as I'm trying to do two things at once here, alongside my co-hosts, Jerry Ostrowski, who you can find on Twitter at Ostrowski_Big O, and the inevitable John Fina, who you can also find on Twitter at John Fina. It is so good to have every single one of you guys joining us. Please do us a favor. Please like, please subscribe, whatever platform you are consuming this video on in live format right now. Please like, please subscribe, specifically on YouTube, as Jerry O has been evangelizing so well. We're trying to get to 2,000 subscribers. That is the benchmark right now. So please do us a favor. Please subscribe if you have not yet. And if you are listening to this in post as a podcast on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, please also like, subscribe, whatever platform you are listening to that on. But it is so good to have every single one of you joining us. Gentlemen, we are 1 week closer to the start of actual football happenings. How are you guys doing?
I'm just wonderful, Joe. I'm doing great. How about yourself, man?
Other than being a little pink in the face from being on a lake and in the sun every single day, I am fantastic. I am not sunburnt, for those of you that are watching live. I do have color in my face. I have a lot of color, a lot of vitamin D going on, but I'm not sunburnt. But I'm doing great. John Fina, how's the Arizona sun?
I'm just happy to be with you fellows. It's like my 14th favorite time of day. The Arizona sun is cruel, punishing, and long.
At least you didn't say 70th favorite time of day, right? So.
Yeah. Well, head out there, do a little rake in, get the mesquite beans off the lawn, and get a little swim in. It's pretty good.
Awesome. Well, it's good to see you guys. It's good to be back together with you guys on the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Show. We are actually you guys are going to be in Buffalo this week, which I am super excited about. I think we're talking about a rendezvous on Saturday night someplace, but obviously we don't have any of those details. Stay tuned for everybody that's watching or listening. There might be an opportunity for you guys to rub elbows with these two gentlemen.
Wait. John, have you been told about this, or is this the first you've heard of this?
I thought I was just going to crash at like 6 o'clock after we play golf all day Saturday.
That's kind of what I thought.
I was under the impression you guys were coming back to Buffalo and we were going to meet up someplace, and just if some casual folks showed up, we were just going to kind of chill, have a couple of pops, but yeah.
18 holes and a 12-pack of Genesee, and we're good to go.
Right.
But I'm in. Hey, I'm in. I mean, the guy that's driving the car's in, so I got to be in, right?
Right. You can sleeve it off in the 90-minute drive back from Rochester, right? So I think that's where you guys are going to golf. But it's so good to have everybody with us. It's so good to have you guys with us. So we got a lot to talk about. The return of the blue and red game was on Friday. The Buffalo Bills had training camp practice today, which is Sunday. And there's a lot of important things to get to. Nothing more important than this. And I need real, from the heart opinions. When you look at these pictures, which ones stand out the best? So 2 years ago, Josh Allen came out for the blue and red game. I was there, and he wore the Hall of Fame worthy Buffalo Bills red helmet last year, and teased us all. We all thought that, we're going to get a red helmet football game this year. We didn't. But he wore that helmet. I didn't like the blue stripes down the center. Last year, he came out with the blue helmet, the blue Buffalo Bills helmet. And then this year, it was the matte black with the standing red Buffalo, which I have a ball cap version of this hat, which I love. Not the biggest fan on a helmet, but the world wants to know what the former Buffalo Bills think about these three helmets. And we can throw in the traditional white standing Buffalo and charging Buffalo. You guys have versions of them behind you?
All right, I'll go first. I'm good with the white helmet, either standing or charging Buffalo. Love it. I think it looks great. Away games, all white. I'm a color rush guy. I love that blue helmet that Josh had on in the middle picture. Oh man, I think that's just slick. And that blue on blue at home, that would kill. People love the red helmet. I'm okay with it. I guess I like change. I like uniform creativity. You know, the Oregon Ducks come out and it's like a circus, and I'm there for it. I'm good. Even when I don't like them, I'm like, you know what? They're having fun. The players get jacked up. I think the blue helmet looks really mean. I think it looks strong.
So it's funny because the matte black helmet with the logo on the side in red is very similar to the OSU Buckeye helmet that they do once a year. And I think that helmet looks fantastic. I was not a huge fan of the matte black with the standing buffalo. Jerry, what are your thoughts?
The matte black helmet was ass. I mean, that's the way I thought it looked horrible. Matte black was really cool about 10 years ago when my oldest kid was in high school.
Right.
Okay. And everybody was rolling to the matte black. Matte black helmet, no. I could live with the blue if I had to. You got to change the buffalo colors because the blue on blue, they don't really pop, especially from the stands. And I got to hear Joe going, I can't even see the logo from my seats. Okay. Really, the only two helmets in my estimation that are legit are the one that's over this shoulder right here, that red one, and this one right here, the blue one or the white one. And I will say this. The Bills, when they roll out in the white on white on white on white on white, that is the iciest, best looking uniform combination they have.
Yeah.
I would wish they would wear that every week, but they obviously can't. I would like to see the return of the red helmet as an alternative, but that black helmet was straight. That was boo-boo.
The Stormtrooper outfit, which you're talking white on white on white. Are you white on white on white with the Charging Buffalo or the 65 AFL Championship jerseys? I like the Standing Buffalo white on white with the different arm stripes and stuff like that.
When you say Standing Buffalo, the all red one that just kind of No, I like this logo right here. I think this is the best Bills logo, Charging Buffalo. I think it looks great.
The amazing thing is you both have the red helmet, which you both exclusively wore red helmets. I think you possibly wore a red helmet with a blue Standing Buffalo once. Is that correct?
No, it's a white Standing Buffalo.
White Standing Buffalo.
John wore it. I know exactly when he wore it too, because I didn't make the trip because I watched it at home when I was on the practice squad and I was going, those look awful.
Awful.
They put that white Standing Buffalo in the red helmet when you played on Thanksgiving in Detroit.
Oh,
John.
Could I just forget that game?
Yes, exactly.
It was so. But Jerry, you've got a white Charging Buffalo helmet. Now tell us about that because you've never worn that helmet.
No, I collect things. I got people that I know, and
nice.
Sometimes people.
I thought it was just mothballs, toy soldiers, and bourbon glasses.
I think I traded for that. I traded like something Tulsa for that. So
gotcha.
But no, the black helmet was, as John would say, garbaggio.
Garbaggio.
Not very good.
All right. Well, let's get into some real conversation around the blue and red game, as well as recent practice, training camp practice on Sunday. Sean McDermott did approach the podium today on Sunday, and he went through the list of injuries, which is probably the most important thing that we're going to talk about, at least right now. And he said Dawson Knox had a groin, but also got a veteran rest day. Mike Edwards with the hamstring, Cole Bishop with the shoulder, Chase Claypool with the toe, Ty Johnson with a hamstring, Leo Collins and Travis Clayton, both with shoulders. Nicholas Morrow, core and groin. And then Eddie has ribs and won't practice. None of those gentlemen practiced on Sunday. The immediate question that he was asked was, is this a concern? To which he said, it's absolutely a concern. And then he followed it up with, we develop players on the field. And I think the question that I would throw at both of you, now training camp was much longer when you guys played, and everything is so condensed and so compact now that those reps that they take are important. However, they've got OTAs and they've got mini camp, which I don't think you guys had. In your estimation, how far behind does somebody get? Like when they say they develop guys on the field, we saw Terrell Bernard last year, and he was asked about this too, missed most of training camp and all the preseason games last year and came in and played lights out. Now he said, Terrell Bernard, obviously was in the system for a year, but in your estimation, is it guy to guy, player to player? Does it kind of depend on the position? Where are you at on this whole thing about developing players on the field?
I think it's position. I don't think it's position to position. I think it's more player to player. Obviously, vets have time under their belt. They've got live bullets under their belt. They've been in it, so they don't need the live reps in practice. Now, when you look at this list,
you're muted, Jerry. There you go.
When the thing is, and what I was saying was, I don't think it makes a big deal for veteran players. They've got live bullets, they've got live reps in games. When you start looking at guys like Cole Bishop and you start looking at guys like Eddie and those guys, they're rookies. They need the time because after, the only thing more important than a practice rep to them is preseason reps. So they need that time. But no, the thing that's concerning to me about this list is the growing list of soft tissue injuries.
Yeah.
That doesn't bode well sometimes for some things. Now, I don't know how many of these players actually train in Buffalo in the offseason and how many go off on their own and train. But if something like this continues, that's usually a bad sign about things.
Sorry, John, there have been people that have brought up over in McDermott's term here, and not obviously blaming Sean, just blaming not blame is a tough word, right? Pointing to, inferring the staff, the as much as we have a great medical facility, as much as we have a great training facility, as much as we have like an elite, like all that stuff, as far as when it's not Sunday type stuff, there have been people that have pointed to this team having a lot of these types of injuries. I don't necessarily know. Again, you guys can speak to this. You guys had, what was it? Rusty Jones, right? Forever was your guys' guy. I mean, I don't know how much of a difference that makes, but I don't want to like sidebar. So I'd like to hear what John has to say maybe before we get into trainers and doctors and stuff like that. But John, what are your thoughts first, just on just kind of that idea of we develop on the field?
Well, going back first, it's player to player, but it's also injury to injury. And we see a ton of stuff that Jerry and I'd never heard this expression before when we played vet rest. I mean, what the hell was that? I mean, you took every rep in every training camp practice that was available to you.
2-a-days, 3-a-days.
Availability and opportunity are your two best assets as a football player. So, when Sean says that he's concerned, it does make me think, well, these injuries might be a little bit more than just the listing. I don't even know what a hamstring injury is. I don't even know if I had a hamstring or still have a hamstring, because I never had to run that far, that fast, or burst all that much. So I understand that's a challenging injury. For me, that injury, you definitely want to nurse. You don't want to bring people back too quickly. The shoulder, as Jerry said, is that soft tissue. AC joints will calm down. It does surprise me a little bit, because the amount of hitting and the rigor of practice seems to be less than when we went out there, and Marv was less than most.
Oh, yeah. Marv was non-existent.
And I've talked to a few people who said these injuries are coming because they don't have the collisions. They don't have as much contact as they used to. Now, that seems to be contrary to what you might think makes sense, but there tends to be a rise. Now, with what you said earlier, Joe, Terrell Bernard, we signed Simon back to the practice squad or to the squad. Are they just filling gaps so they can create more vet rest, so they can get guys healthy and ready to go? The preseason games will be important for a few guys, but as far as the vets go, no. I mean, the last preseason game, you want to get a half a football in or a quarter. I am not terribly concerned. I think guys are more judicious now. I think we played deeper and longer with superficial injuries that might have made them worse, or I'm not going to say we were tougher. We were just more stupid. We were stupider. We just kept playing.
Gotcha. Jerry, you're going to say something?
No, I think a lot of this too is, with the developments in training and the science that goes into training now, athletes are bigger, faster, stronger than they've ever been.
Right.
And therefore, I think some of these guys are so tuned that they are susceptible to things like this because they're so built up and they've got so much muscle mass. So it's really, really on that training staff when I say training staff, I don't mean the training room. I mean the guys in the weight room. Right. To really mix things up, change how they do things, make sure that they're getting flexibility and they're getting hip mobility and movement as much as they're getting strength. Because after a while, how strong you are kind of doesn't matter. I mean, there's functional strength. I mean, you can only get so strong, and then it becomes, the point is moot, right? So
right.
I think you really got to watch these guys, especially the older dudes. You got to do a ton of prehab. And that's what Rusty was really into. I think Rusty was into that stuff way before anybody else was. We did a bunch of prehab. We did a bunch of nutritional stuff. We also did he would never really let us get after it too much as far as weight on bars and things like that, because the worst thing you do is get a guy hurt in the weight room. So, I think that's a big kind of a mix of it. It's a byproduct of the science of training, these guys developing so much more than they used to. And I don't believe that, I don't believe in the people that think, well, these injuries are happening because you're not going hard enough. That's ridiculous. John was 100% correct. We played for two of the guys who were as tuned into player health as anybody. And Marv and Wade, I mean, our practices in training camp were an hour and 40 minutes max, I think, with Marv. And we never wore knee pads or anything like that. So it was, and we seem to be just fine. So it's more important to get your guys to the season than it is to burn them up in training camp.
Speaking of Marv, it is his 99th birthday. That dude is going to live forever.
It's for you, bro.
Same. So, wow. Yeah, dip one to Marv. Yeah. So happy birthday, Coach, which is really, really awesome. Speaking of just injuries and roster moves, the Buffalo Bills made a move today, or I should say in the last day or so, at linebacker. Jerry, do you want to talk about that real quick and just some thoughts you have around that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm starting to wonder if the front office is getting a little bit nervous about depth at in the linebacker room and backups. I think defensively right now, and you look at most of our injuries, a lot of them are in that secondary and things like that. I think our starting 11's pretty good from all reports. I mean, you got Tyler Rapp, who's a vet, who's been there and understands. You got DeMar Hamlin, who's playing at a high level. You got Cam Lewis who can jump in, some different guys. I think Bishop will be back, whatever. But after that first 11, who are really the backups? I think D-line is probably the deepest of any of the positions. But that linebacker spot, you get a lineman hurt, a D-lineman hurt, and the guy you signed back is a guy you had around for, 2-3 weeks before. And another linebacker, it's like, are they a little bit worried about that linebacker depth right now?
Is it possible that linebacker signing is more of a conversation around what they have seen in the red and blue game, and then the first preseason game, the Hall of Fame game, based on the kickoff?
Well, that's what I was going to bring up. The linebacker depth signing could be a function of special teams, right? Kicking game. You want to make sure, if you don't think Balin Spector is the guy for that, you bring in another guy. You have to have that availability. I don't know if you guys watched that preseason game, that kickoff, scrum kickoff, whatever the hell they want to call it. Very strange looking thing. And it really convinced me that the coverage guys, you probably have two fast guys hanging back a little bit, and you converge with guys that are linebackers. I just don't see the place for coverage for anybody in a DB spot. I think they want to compress and sit and be able to react laterally and not give up a big play. So for me, it makes sense to be deeper at that spot. Historically, last year, we had some linebacker issues with regard to health. So it doesn't quite concern me. It looks more to me like a preparatory move.
Yep. I think Shane Simon is the linebacker who signed back. I believe he was from Pitt. But I heard some different things. I've been reading some stuff about the kickoff and how people are looking at it. It's almost like a running play with more room. It's kind of how it's becoming. It's like a big running play, and I think you're going to see special teams coordinators really get into the trickery and some different things like that. But AK Cash brings up a point. Who's the backup Mike at this point? Heard Spector got reps of the ones today. Spector's a guy that I could have seen maybe not making the roster. Now he's getting reps with the ones at linebacker. That to me is interesting. That kind of solidifies what I was worried about.
This is a great question, because last year when Terrell Bernard got hurt, they went out and they brought back AJ Klein to be the Mike guy.
Well, he'll be back.
So they went to the coffin to get a guy to play Mike linebacker.
He'll be back. We'll have World War III and a nuclear meltdown, and the next headline the next day will be Bills sign AJ Klein.
Well, funny. AJ did announce, I think yesterday or the day before, that he is retired.
But it doesn't, as you guys know, it does not matter what you say. It's when the paper gets filed,
right?
Because that's what always happens. It's like, oh, so and so, has announced his retirement, and then a year later, it's like, but he hasn't filed his paperwork yet.
Right. But anyway, I have a feeling that there's some maybe a little bit of nervousness about that linebacker room right now.
That's interesting. What were you going to say, John?
No, I mean, I think it's more for the kicking game than it is for depth at the playing position. That's just my thought.
Yeah. So real quick, when you look at did both of you watch that preseason game?
Very little of it.
I was actually wondering this is off script. We didn't talk about this. Just what your thoughts, your takeaways were about the kickoff. So when I watched it, I believe it was originally with the UFL, and obviously in this preseason game, I like the difference. Clearly I'm a traditionalist. I want old football. I don't even like the fact that they bring it out to the 25. Like I didn't like last year when you could fair catch it anywhere inside the field of play and the ball would come to the 25. I like the potential that's there, but I'm curious to know what you guys think as far as just from this new kickoff scheme or the rules. Like what just first thoughts. And if you don't have any, that's fine. Like I'm throwing you up. Yeah.
Go ahead, John. Go ahead.
I think it's a fun evolution of the game. I really think, anything new, people half will embrace and half will poo-poo it. I think it'll be interesting and fun to watch. Right. I found that the kickoffs for the past 3 to 4 years were just kind of boring, and I was sort of over it. Like, why are we even doing this?
Right.
So there's an opportunity here where a guy breaks a couple of tackles and, scampers out to the 30. That's not bad. As an offensive lineman, I don't mind that. I'll start at the 29 every time, right? Just don't have me at the 16 after a holding penalty. Right. And I think I think you'll see a reduction in the holding penalties because I don't think the movement is going to be as fast, right? A guy trying to block a guy coming at him running a 4.5, 4.7, you end up getting on the edge and you do a little tug here and there. I think now it's going to look, like you said, a little bit more of a run play, and you're going to be able to front guys up a little bit better, blocking them, and you'll probably see a reduction in holding. And then it's just up to the guy with the ball to, find a seam and press a shoulder.
Yeah, but once he's gone, he's gone. Like once he jumps over that one defensive player, he's gone.
No, they're going to work it like almost like a pyramid, right? You're going to have 5 guys in the attack. You're going to have 3 guys behind him. You have 2 behind him, and then you'll have your disaster guy, right? And it's going to flow this way. And you can direct the ball. If you have a kicker who can't place the ball where he wants to in that type of setup, so you can cover properly, man, you got a problem at kicker.
So basically what John just said was we're going to go to the Mighty Ducks flying V formation. And that's how we're going to
I don't know how you get the pyramid out of 2 straight lines of dudes 10 yards apart, 15 yards from where the guy's
talking about the coverage. They'll fold in, Joe. They'll fold in behind.
Gotcha.
I'm like John. I like the fact that the play actually it's important again. It's actually a play. It's not just kick it and take it at the 25. I think people need to embrace this. Whether you like it or you don't like it, as the years go on, more and more of the massive collisions are going to be taken out of the game of football.
Yeah.
And this is just the beginning. I would not doubt if at some point the offensive and defensive lines are in 2-point stances. There's going to be a lot. Football's turning into more of a strategic game than just a collision toughness game. I think they're going to slowly take those big collisions out, and this kickoff rule is just the beginning. And I think it kind of all goes hand in hand with the more games we play. And I'm a conspiracy theorist, so I think that the more games we play, the less collisions, the longer we can play.
Yeah.
By the time I die, who knows? Maybe we'll have 20 games in the NFL. But I think it's all kind of runs hand in hand, I think.
Well, I feel like there was numbers on the roster, but go ahead, Joe.
No, I understand the NFL is trying to avoid any type of blame or focus on CTE and being responsible for it. And there's you want to talk about conspiracy theories, just all of that stuff, right? And what has happened in the past. It just feels like the more they take collisions out of the game, the more people get injured. And maybe they're not head injuries necessarily, but it seems like they're getting injured in other ways. And then it comes down to, and you guys probably understand this, we talked last week about different fields and stadiums and garbage stadiums. Like the fields that they make these guys play on a lot of times is what is causing the injuries. Like all of the NFL, for the most part, went to this Astro play, right? From concrete with a little tiny piece of thin green carpet that you guys played on. It's like, oh, this is better. This feels like grass. And then they're finding out that it's causing ACL injuries. It's causing cleats to stick in the grass. It just seems to be a very self-defeating thing. The kickoff thing feels that way to me too. So for the creatives out there, there's something to be said for being too close to your work. Like you create something and you're constantly making tweaks. And then you get to the point where you're like 19 revisions down the road and you're like, I went too far. And you end up going back to the beginning because the beginning was better. You've made so many changes that you've kind of ruined it. And I almost feel if that's kind of what last year, to all the point, it's like, just kick it out of the end zone. Just kick it out of the end zone. And then they do that. And you're like, I don't even know why we're doing this. And then they kick it inside to make somebody return it. They get a big gain against you. And then as a fan, you're like, why didn't you just kick it out of the end zone? It's just I don't even know what the answer is. I like the change. I like the idea of embracing it, to Jerry's point. I like what John said about just it's different. It's going to bring a different element. It'll be interesting to see where it goes, right? And if this is the answer.
As my friend once said, if you don't like change, you're really not going to like irrelevance. And
that
you're going to have to embrace change.
That is a fantastic. That is a fantastic leadership quote. That is one of the best. So,
and he was a leader. He said it at his retirement ceremony from being a general in the Air Guard, the United States Air Force Air Guard. So
yes, you better be ahead of the curve, otherwise the curve is past you, and you're going to be irrelevant.
The topic was dealing with millennials in the military.
We're running out of time. This has been a great conversation. Time has flown by for this episode. There's a couple.
Is this the lightning round, Joe? Are we doing the lightning round? All right.
If we're gonna do a lightning round, I mean, just real quick hit thoughts before we talk about what I think is the more important thing. Defense looking better than the offense. Finally, kind of catching up to the offense. Normally, the defense starts out in front. We saw the Bills' offense kind of start out in front, and then the defense, they say, dominated on Friday in the red and blue game. Quick thought on that.
Yeah, I got to tell you, it's hard to get motivated as a defender when you can't clack pads, right? And those guys, they get to eat. They put the pads on, they're bringing it, they're competitive. They didn't like what they had behind them, so they're up for the challenge. It's good. Gotcha. It looks different. They get invigorated. Let's go.
Gotcha. More physical line play, and some of the athletic mismatches come out with guys like, you've heard about Ed Oliver having a hell of a camp and a bunch of days where he's in the backfield, and likewise. Yep. So, I mean, it's just a lot easier for that D-line.
And Vaughn, there's something to be said too. When the pads aren't on, the defense has to let up, right? They can't. Whereas you put the pads on, they can bring, and then now they can tackle to the ground. Obviously, the entire game changes. The other quick hit point would be, it was reported today that James Cook, who has had an issue with dropping Josh Allen passes in the end zone or headed to the end zone, is maybe still having a little bit of trouble with that. So, real quick thoughts on, the guy that was the fourth leading rusher, the sixth leading all-purpose yards from scrimmage guy. A guy that we would like to see be elite that maybe is struggling a little bit with his hands. Just quick thought on that.
Yeah, we're all going to agree on this one. You want to be known as elite, you got to make the catches, the easy ones, the hard ones, the ones in the belly. You got to do better. And hopefully he's got that first year and second year behind him, and the butterflies are gone. That ball comes, reach out, catch it, soft hands, and go.
Yep. Yeah, I think it also, too, is pretty telling. You draft Ray Davis. You talk about Curtis Samuel in the backfield all the time. It seems like this coaching staff already well aware of James's, inconsistencies in catching the football out of the backfield. That's why those guys were brought in. Ray Davis is going to have to figure out a way to hold on to the football. I think he puts the football on the ground a little bit too much in the preseason, and we all know what happens when you do that. On a McDermott football team, you don't see the field. So, John's correct. If you want to be that guy, you got to make the plays when they're there, and he's got to start catching the ball on a regular basis.
And lastly, Jerry, if you're the feature back, you're going to be coming out on third down and might as well bring a guy in who can catch the ball. You could take a little bit of the pressure off James Cook. He's your feature guy, first and second down, crushing it on the run. Get him off the field, give him a little air. Let somebody else come in and make that catch on 3rd and 3.
Yeah. Last topic for this episode, which is a topic that I was really excited to talk about, which is odd because we've been talking about it for the entire offseason, which is the wide receiver group and Keon Coleman specifically since the draft. And it is just unrelenting. The amount of reports that we read and the things that we see from camp about him dominating. And it's not a situation of, oh my gosh, he got so much separation. Oh, he beat this guy long. Oh, Josh hit him with a deep pass. It's basically he's bodying guys. He's a big dude, basketball player. I think Matt Perino today talked about his vertical, like the vertical that he has is real. And he jumped up and got a ball today. And Matt was like, I thought Josh was throwing it away, and he jumped up and snagged it. The question, I guess, is for Bills Mafia, are the Bills going to put Keon Coleman in a situation like they do with a lot of their rookies and slow play him? Or is Keon making a case that you're like, I need to be in the lineup week 1? I'm the guy.
I think week 1, Keon's a starter. I think that he's doing exactly what he was brought in to do. He's not a guy we're trying to get down the field on big, huge flag patterns or big, huge post patterns and throw these bombs downfield. He is a possession receiver that has physical abilities to catch the ball in traffic, and you see it every day. He caught one over top of Bedford today. He caught one over top of I can't remember who it was the other day. Shakir. But it's like, you know, when Josh extends plays, it's just like the play today. Josh got flushed. He ran to the right side. He threw the ball downfield. Yeah, pointing. Keon goes to the sideline and makes a play over top of Christian Benford. That's what he was brought in to do. I don't think they have a problem starting first and second round guys. Now, obviously, Khair was different. He struggled from jump, and he's had problems getting in the lineup. But we saw Torrance last year come in, start immediately at a position that technique-wise is much harder to start at an early age than it is wide receiver, in my estimation. So I don't think it's those guys. It's the third, the fourths, the fifths. Those are the dudes they really kind of slow play and bring along at a slower rate. But I think Keon's a starter day 1.
All right. I agree. I've always said get the rookies in there when they show talent like this in training camp. But here are my 3 reasons. 1, he's not a quarterback. He's not going to go in the tank. Hey, Maggie, thanks for agreeing with me. He's not going to go in the tank. You're not worried about him getting in his head, right? He's a receiver. The ball doesn't come to him every time. Half the plays are running plays. He's safe. 2, he's not a running back. He doesn't really have the opportunity to fumble in the backfield at a loss. He might fumble downfield. Pray God he doesn't. It's not as big of a deal as being a running back putting the ball on the ground. 3, he's not a cornerback where you just get smoked for a 70-yard touchdown, right? Worst that can happen, he might drop a ball here and there. He's shown that he isn't going to drop the ball, but incompletion really doesn't hurt as bad as giving up a 50, 60, 70-yard touchdown because your cornerback caught his toe in the freaking carpet, right? Get him in the game. Just build on the energy he has right now. Capitalize on it. Build up his ego. Throw him out there and let's kill.
I love it. I love it. It's going to be interesting. What do we got? We got about a week of training camp left. The Buffalo Bills' first preseason game is this Saturday against the Chicago Bears in Buffalo, which that should be an interesting game if we're going to see their new quarterback or not. I don't know what you guys feel about that. I can't gauge the information coming out of Chicago, whether he's doing well or he's not doing well. Like I hear good, I hear bad. I'm like, so I'm not necessarily sure what we're going to see. But it'll be interesting to see what we see out of the Bills, because the Bills have a lot to Jerry's show on last Thursday, about 5 statements, five things the Bills need to discover. They're gonna be learning some things on Saturday. So what do we got? We got Tuesday. Ryan Talbot on the beat is going to be joining us from New York State Up and Syracuse.com, as well as the Shout Buffalo podcast. Wednesday, the Hump Day Hotline. Thursday, the Big O Show with that guy, Jerry Ostrowski. And then Friday, If the Walls Could Talk in Buffalo again. Anything to wrap this show up, gentlemen, before we get out of here?
It's getting closer and closer every day. I'm not wishing my summer away, Joe, but I'm excited, man.
Summer's coming to a close, bro.
Hey, and thanks to everybody in the comments. Really, really appreciate it. All you guys who join the show all the time. Thank you so much. Share the show. Go on YouTube, send the link, say, come have a look at these 3 clowns, like them, love them, hate them, subscribe, enjoy. Bills Mafia, you rock.
Jerry?
Yep. No, I agree. Great comments in the comment section tonight. Great interaction. Looking forward to getting to preseason games. We can start talking about the team on the field as a whole, start talking about development of players and those types of things. It's right around the corner, man. It's going to be here before we know it.
Coming quick. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been tuned in to the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Show on the Overreaction Sports Network, powered by Believe. For me, for John, for Jerry, we love you guys. We appreciate you, as John said and Jerry echoed. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, for being a part, and for just all that you do to effectively just kind of keep this motor going for us and keeping us engaged. We appreciate you guys. We love you. But for all three of us, we love you guys. We'll talk soon. Go Bills.
Go Bills.
Much love. Go Bills.
Go Bills.